Welcome to my PowerPoint on Vyper from Deadlock. So Vyper is actually a really interesting character. Vyper has really good stats across the board with a very, higher amount of starting health than most characters, the fastest firing gun in the game with a pretty solid bullet damage, and starting with 4 stamina. Most characters have 3 or even 2, so Vyper having 4 in addition to the stamina that you'll get from Slither makes so Vyper is honestly really strong at fighting. Vyper, especially when we talk about the abilities, we'll talk about how, Vyper gets Slither. So Vyper has a basically pseudo-infinite amount of ammo, and because Vyper's abilities are so strong at fighting, especially early, Vyper's a really strong in-lane character that, while it has a bit of a weaker mid-game because the abilities kind of don't work that well when you're not constantly fighting, it still scales incredibly well because of the fact that you have the fastest firing gun in the game. It works incredibly well with items like Tesla bullets or with split shot or getting, a glass cannon. You get the attack speed and the weapon from that. The Vyper really has like a defined power, but it's different, right? In the early game, a lot of your strength is coming from your abilities, but in the late game, all of your strength is coming from your very powerful gun. So it's kind of 2 different ways to play the character throughout the game. They have to transition into doing that, right? Of course, that's enough to talk about stats, so let's actually talk about the abilities. We start with Screwjab Dagger. Screwjab Dagger is actually a really interesting and kind of strong ability. So what it does is you throw a dagger that has actually infinite range. It doesn't stop until it hits something. That deals 50 times 0.8 spirit damage and applies a 35% slow. That's not very much damage on its own, especially for a thin, not that hard to dodge projectile. But every time you hit it, it stacks in damage and in slow. So it has 3 maximum stacks and it gains 25 times 0.4 spirit damage per stack and another 15% movement speed slow. It starts with 2 charges. That's a pretty low cooldown of only 10 seconds. So you can pretty consistently get these stacks in the early game, especially if you do take, the level 1 on it, which some builds do, some builds don't, depending on how you like to play. You can get extra charges that make it easier to keep stacking, getting the bonus damage off of it. Or you don't really take points in at all because, well, it's kind of like just a lane ability. It's not very good in the mid to late game, even though, hey, 8%, bullet res on hit or minus 8% bullet res on hit on the level 2, and it increases per stack might sound very good, but it's like really slow. It's not one of the faster abilities. It's not like a Gray Talon where you can just fire out your arrows really fast, even though it's, stacks. It has like I think it's like a 4-second cooldown or whatever between how many you can throw. So it takes a while to build up the stacks, and, well, by the mid to late game, you're not going to have that much time in a fight to actually build up the stacks. You're not in lane getting, value out of it. So a lot of times you won't even put many, if any, points in this ability, depending on the game that you're playing, depending on the build you're going. So while it is a very powerful lane ability, you can't say it's not, especially if you are good at hitting it. It's just nothing of an ability in the mid to late game, and that's fine. It's not the end of the world, but it kind of is annoying because they actually reworked this. I didn't play what it was before, but I did just get changed, so basically being a useless ability even after having changes feels weird. Like I said, I didn't play it, so I'm not going to speak on it too much further, but that's just a weird thing. Then we have Lethal Venom. So this is more of an important ability for Vyper's kit. It is an execute, so it starts at, you point and click on a target, and after 3 seconds, they'll take, the amount of damage. It starts at minimum 20 times 0.651 spirit powered, really low, but it does more and more damage based on the target's missing health, maxing out 25% missing health at 165 times 2.79 spirit power maximum damage. On top of the fact that while it doesn't have the most, range, it's not the shortest cooldown, its first level already increases it to 200% execute damage, basically. So, for most characters, that's going to kill them really early on in the game. So, Vyper is very, very powerful at fighting and securing kills in lane. The second upgrade is not the greatest, only minus 40% healing reduction for 3 seconds. Really not that big of a deal. But the 5th upgrade builds their bullets also build up lethal venom. Makes it so that this ability actually scales into the game with Vyper. You know, like I said, Vyper is a gun character, building a lot of gun in most builds. You can go spare power, but it's not the greatest. The gun is much better. And Vyper's already not the greatest character anyway. She's very awkward to play and kind of clunky, so a lot of people aren't good at her, but she's really solid if you know what you're doing. Especially, again, in the early game, you can very much dominate lane because of Lethal Venom, because of Screwjab Dagger, and honestly because of Slither as well. We'll get to that. But yeah, so Lethal Venom just gives you so much pressure in lane. If you have a strong lane partner like a Paige, or a Doorman, or a Kelvin, or a Mina, then your Lethal Venom is lethal. It's going to get you kills in lane if you know what you're doing. If you're able to fight, if you're able to secure these kills, then you're just going to be able to snowball your lane. You can also use this on turrets on the Guardian to get extra damage in lane. It's not going to do that much damage, right? Because, well, you need to get the Guardian to 25% before it really does anything, but still it can do good damage. And once you get the rank 5 upgrade, it applies on your bullets, right? So you can do that on walkers. That's, you know, you're not really gonna have it by the Guardian, but for the most part you can have it by walkers in most builds. And or you can use it on camps, and actually makes it so that Vyper can clear camps a lot easier, especially because I believe once it pops on a camp, you can just do it right over. It doesn't have like a timer for how often you can do it on a target, right? So if you're doing like a level 3 camp, you can keep popping it over and over again to keep getting on these camps. You keep applying, you make sure you apply it to all the camps. It gets applied on all your bullets, so even like split shot will apply it. So you actually have really good camp clearing ability once you start to get more, you know, your levels in Lethal Venom, or you have, you know, enough gun anyway. Vyper's really good at clearing level 3 camps. First character I'm really talking about that is really good at it. Like, but Billy's fine at it, don't get me wrong, but Vyper's definitely really good at it. Anyway, this isn't real. Like, these two abilities, they are strong and they're important, but they're not like the main, you know, gimmick of Vyper. The main gimmick of Vyper is Slither, right? Slither is an incredibly good movement tool. It's awkward to use, though, is the thing. So in Deadlock, the way that you slide is you can slide immediately if you're going over a ledge by holding control. You just vault up on the ledge, you can slide instantly. If you're moving fast enough, you'll start to sprint and then you can slide. If you're going down a ramp, you can slide, or if you dash, you can slide, etc., right? If you're just moving fast enough, you'll start to slide. So this gives Vyper starting 10% bonus slide distance, but up to 30% on the rank 1 upgrade, so you're going to get that pretty early on in the game most of the time. It gives Vyper more of the infinite ammo that you get from sliding. So because Vyper has such high fire rate, and this, you know, makes it easier to move while you're sliding as well. You can go up hills with it. You can turn faster, etc. It makes it so that Vyper is a very slippery and especially low to the ground character. So Vyper, while standing up, is, you know, average to maybe a little below average in height. But when Vyper is sliding, it's the lowest slide in the game. And you can go pretty fast. Because you have so much extra slide distance, the faster you're going, you'll get even more slide distance. So sometimes you want to build items like Fleet Foot, or you want to build like Enduring Speed on Vyper. If you have to, you know, keep up with people, or you need to play further back, you want to play safe, it makes it really good for Vyper. Sorry. One of the best parts about this ability, though, is its level 2 upgrade, which makes it so that Vyper, who already has, you know, tied for the highest stamina in the game at 4, goes to 6 stamina. This makes it so that Vyper has a lot of mobility. Now, it's not the fastest, it's not the, you know, the biggest burst mobility in the game, but 6 stamina, I don't think any other character can have 6 dashes, right? And like, while the, you know, the stamina dashes aren't the furthest, it's still pretty big and pretty important to get so much of this, because you can keep sliding around, keep sliding more and more and more. And while in the late game, you want to be sliding because you're going to be moving so fast and you have infinite ammo and you're firing so many bullets, Vyper doesn't have the biggest gun size clip. It's only 24 shots. That's not the largest of, you know, any gun character. These characters go up to like 66 shots. So getting extra ammo is a little less valuable in Vyper. It's still good, right? Because you're not always going to be sliding. Sometimes you have to, you know, you don't have ways to slide, or it just is a little awkward to keep sliding while shooting, because when you do have to dash to slide, you stop firing for a little bit. So sometimes you can't slide all the time. So I'm not saying don't buy more ammo on Vyper. It's still useful, but this does give you nearly infinite ammo. Do note that if you are reloading and then you try and shoot and slide, that doesn't work. That's just a universal thing, though. It's not a Vyper thing. And then the rank 3 upgrade, on slide, gain 180 barrier for 5 seconds. Okay, so this is not bad. Throughout the game, it will block a lot of damage, but 180 barrier is not very big, and while you get the barrier for like a long amount of time, you keep using it, it's kind of like basically just blocking like chip damage is mostly what it is. Like 180 is not large enough to make a difference a lot of the time, but it does make it so that if you are for whatever reason taking this, you know, really early on, you can. It's not the worst. If you are going to be fighting a lot, right? Because you're fighting basically on cooldown. This is 180 like healing basically every time you go in. You keep fighting and fighting and fighting. This ability, I don't personally like to max it in lane, but I have seen people. I know I have a friend that also plays a lot of Vyper. He likes to max this in lane and basically just fights non-stop with it, right? Constantly fighting, constantly proccing the shield and getting value out of the barrier that kind of can't really deal with on some characters. You're playing against, you know, characters that are that have like say like, what am I trying to think of? Like a haze, right? If you're playing against a haze, you can basically leverage the fact that you kind of have more health than the haze does on repeat and take some short trades, and you are Vyper, right? You're pretty good at taking these short trades because your gun is so fast and your abilities are pretty good at, you know, range to poke and do all this stuff with, right? So it can be pretty useful against that. I'm not a big fan of it myself, but it's definitely something you can try. That being said, Slither is so powerful. I like, if it were less clunky to use, I think Vyper would be more popular and, you know, seeing more play, but it's just really awkward to use more than anything else. And then lastly, we have Petrifying Bola. This is a really powerful ultimate ability that's reminiscent of like Bard Tempered Fate from League of Legends, or like, I don't know what it's called, Naga Siren in Dota's ultimate. What it does is you throw a bola, and if it, you know, has a 8-meter explosion radius, if it misses the target, it will deal, you know, 45 damage times 0.744 spirit power and slows them for 50% for 1.5 second duration. Who cares about that? If you direct hit the target, it deals an additional 165 times 2.05 spirit power in petrify damage, and it petrifies them for 2 seconds. This basically makes it so they are like fully stunned in a way that you can't even hurt them. Their teammate can't do anything to them. Nothing can affect these characters for that time, right? It is a very powerful engage tool because it gives your team 2 whole seconds on a ability that has no range limit, by the way, to get up to them as fast as possible, and it does really good damage, like 210 base damage with a really good spirit power scaling. Does a lot of damage. If you're ever playing Spirit Vyper, it's because of this ability. You throw this at them and they take a lot of damage, and then I don't know, you throw a couple daggers at them, you put venom on them because you can't put venom through the petrify. You know, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, Spirit Power Vyper is just not the greatest, I gotta be honest with you. But yeah, it does a lot of damage. It's a really good teamfight initiation tool. It's a 90-second cooldown, which is basically nothing. It gives Vyper a lot of utility outside of just being a, you know, gun powerful carry. If you're, you know, falling behind, if you're not doing well, you have this to rely on because, well, when you get to the rank 3, we'll talk about, it's a really strong ultimate. At rank 1, it does an additional 55 damage. Really big damage increase, all things considered. At rank 2, it has minus 25-second cooldown. Again, really big, you know, cooldown reduction. These are really powerful ability points. You are typically, you know, upgrading Petrifying Bola either, you know, first or second as one of your abilities for most builds. And the fact that it is just such a low cooldown engage tool, you want to be constantly fighting. Vyper's a really powerful character at snowballing into the game and basically killing the opponent, putting them behind, getting so much money that you just kill your opponent rather than being like, yeah, Vyper is good in the late game, right? No one's saying that Vyper isn't, but why would you play Vyper in the late game over, you know, other characters? You'd rather just get ahead and be snowballing and use the fact that Vyper is really powerful to win the game, right? This is like a concept from a lot of, MOBAs that is pretty similar, right? You have characters like Draven in League of Legends, right? He does a lot of damage all up front, and, while he doesn't scale the greatest, he's still fine in the late game, and he's mainly just getting all this front-loaded power that he's using through the early game to try and snowball and end the game. Vyper's kind of works in a similar way. Well, yeah, the gun is still really good and it scales very well. You'd rather just end the game and just be really powerful. When I'm playing Vyper, most of my games are ending faster than when I'm playing a lot of other characters, because I'm dominating lane and I'm just trying to push down like a lane and take walkers and just like kill my opponents. And Petrifying Bola is really good for that because you can constantly keep fighting on the low 65-second cooldown with a really high damaging ability. And then, of course, the rank 3 upgrade makes so you have an extra second of Petrify, which is really nice because it makes it easier to engage with your team, and it hits all enemies in the area instead of, only slowing the enemies in the AoE if it doesn't direct hit them. That's really good. It makes it like a true Tempered Fate, like in League of Legends, or I guess a more apt example would be like old Sejuani ult, where, you throw it out and it stuns them. It's really strong. Okay, and then we talk about some builds. This is a build that I would recommend. I like to, I've started like buying items out of order or doing things, so I never really like to recommend left to right, but this one does help a lot of people. It's pretty easy to understand. And 2 items I really want to talk about for Vyper are Split Shot and Active Reload. While it isn't, like, if you're good at aiming, I'm not, like, it doesn't really matter, but if you are, not used to aiming while sliding and playing Vyper and using the fact that you're kind of move around the map really fast, Split Shot not only makes it really easy to hit multiple targets, it increases your damage by a lot. Because you're firing so fast, you're gonna get the max stacks on it basically instantly, and again, you're going to be mowing down enemies from the fact that it's multi-shot, so it hits all these targets. You're going to apply your lethal venom on multiple targets. You're able to just do so much damage. Active Reload, while it does give, more ammo like I was talking about, the main thing is that you want to be using the Active Reload. You press R once the green bar shows up, and you get plus 25% fire rate, which is huge. You get plus bullet lifesteal, which is huge, 18%. And then you move faster for that 7-second duration. And that's on Vyper, right? You basically can use this whole 7-second duration to fire. You can, like most characters, even if you are using Active Reload, you'll probably run out of bullets before going through the full duration. Not on Vyper. Vyper, you can use the full duration and get so much value, especially because, like I keep saying, Vyper has the fastest fire rate gun in the game. So having this to help you reload if you don't have all your, if you don't have ways to keep slithering, or if you did slither and then you, if you shot and then you were shooting and then you got your things back, but you went to slither, like I said, you can't fire while sliding. It gives you all your bullets back. It's just a really powerful item in general. Active Reload, it's just really solid. It's very cheap. It's only 1,600. So if you ever, want to skip it, it's not the biggest deal. If you want to rush it, it's pretty solid. It's just a decent item. Both these items are just pretty solid. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me anything down below about Vyper. Oh my gosh, dude. I'm having a day. Vyper is a really cool character, and my personal go-to if I want to play, like, a gun character, right? Character that's primarily, like, I want to shoot really fast. I want to, put the game on my back because I want to snowball the game. Vyper's really good. That being said, Vyper's not the strongest character and has a couple, like, really bad matchups. You play against Mina, obviously you're going to have a bad day. You playing against Dynamo, good luck, because Dynamo basically ruins your character because he'll ruin your slide with a really giant hitbox and you're going to be stuck for a second. You can't really do much against Dynamo, I gotta be honest with you. It's really rough in lane and really rough throughout the game, especially because Vyper wants to be up close because of her low gun range, so you're always in threat of like a Dynamo ult. There's a couple characters that do really well in the Vyper, but if you're just, want to dominate lane and then end the game really quickly, Vyper is a very good character for that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.